Alright, don't let me scare you.
There you go. Awesome.
Don't let me scare you.
Okay.
Get out of the way, just because.
Yeah, get out of the way, Bob. Okay, can you see us all?
Greetings from Texas.
Yes. Okay, I'm going to do a quick introduction and then we'll just let you do the talking, okay?
Alright, I'll shut up.
So this is Gayle Nix Jackson's latest book. It's called Pieces of the Puzzle, an Anthology, and it contains, I've still got 100 pages to read. I couldn't finish the whole book, sadly, but it's a very good book actually, and it's got 9 chapters in it, of which 5 are written by her, and there's 4 others, and I've got to think about, there's Chris Scully, who did a piece on the timeline of the actual Nix film as such. This is the last chapter. It's actually the first chapter I read. And then there is a very good chapter by Steve Rowe. Now, Steve Rowe is actually, well, classed as a lone nutter, because he believes that Oswald did it. But at the same time, he admits, like, I don't have the answer for everything. So he actually writes a very good piece, and he delves really deep into Texas, especially Dallas, about right-wing groups, KKK, Murchison, Minutemen, you name it, anything right-wing related and so forth, and what the political situation and the social situation was in Dallas at that time, just before, during and just after. I thought it was very insightful, very good chapter. Then the first chapter is by a gentleman, I forgot his first name, his last name is Wagenford, and he worked at Time Life, and he writes about that period of time when Time Life, can you hear me?
Why?
Can you hear me?
Me?
Yeah? Can you hear me?
Yeah.
Okay, sorry.
My daughter.
No, not to worry. And he basically writes about the period of Time Life, when Time Life were actually acquiring all the images and the films as such. I'm doing some research on the other side of that, because I know of a guy called Holland McCombs who worked in Dallas. He worked for Dallas Morning News and also for Time Life. And I got hold of his archives, and his archives basically show contracts of most of the movie makers and the photographers that were there, where they basically purchased all the footage as such, or licensing as such. And now I'm forgetting one. I've got to cheat. And the 4th person, am I missing something? Oh, the Gunrunner is by Doug Campbell. And Doug Campbell, as you know, has got his own radio show. And he writes about, he's done a lot of work on the guys like Lauren Hall and William Seymour and all these guys like Jerry Patrick Hammond, these people that were in Dallas and in just before and just after as such. That by itself is also quite interesting. And then of course we've got Gayle, and Gayle does the other 5 chapters. They're actually in the center of the book, and they are actually a lot about General Edwin Walker and all the affiliation and the people that are actually involved as such. So I thought it was really interesting, because it went into certain avenues where I thought, yeah, I know that, this, that, and the other, but at the same time they also came up with new stuff, and I thought, yeah, this is really interesting, and overall it's a really good read. And it's the first book I've read in 2 years, because I've just been researching myself, so I didn't have time to read books. But I thought I recommend it to purchase and actually to read it as such, especially when you want to know about the background in Dallas as such. It doesn't waffle on about the CIA, you know, all the time. It actually says like what's happening locally, and how actually explosive the situation actually was in that time. Now anyway, I can talk here for another hour, but I'm not going to do that. So I'm going to let Gayle take over. And first of all, I'll start with a question, and I'm going to let you do most of the talking, but the question here is, you released your book on your granddad's film 4 years ago.
I did. Here, look.
There you go, that's it.
Yes.
Yeah, the missing. Yeah.
Lucky strike.
Yes. The question is here, what made you actually come up with a follow-up for this? And the follow-up question for that is to get the other authors involved as well. What was the idea behind that?
Oh my. Alright. First off, hello, and thank you for having me. And I hope you can take the Texas accent, and I hope that you can understand what I'm saying. And if you can't, say, hold up, and I will back up. Now, the reason why I wrote this book, I've already forgotten what the first question was, but the reason why I wrote this book is because during my research, well, I've been around the Kennedy assassination my whole life. My grandfather took the whole movie, and I have met and talked to people all my life, and I've been interested all my life because my grandfather, from day one that he got his film back, said there was something wrong. There was something going on. Well, that piqued my curiosity even as a child, and it followed through my adult life. Now, why I wrote this book? I had such an interest in the people of Dallas that were not talked to by the Warren Commission and by the church committee and by the House Select Committee, and I kept thinking, why? I mean, why did we not talk to the Larry Schmitz and the Bernie Weissmans and the other world? Why? And why do we not know more about the anti-Castro Cubans? And why was the Warren Commission so after Father McCann? And why did he leave the church? And who was he? And so I thought, well, if I'm that interested, surely there's someone else out there that's as interested as I am, I hope. And luckily there have been. As far as why I asked the other people to do it, I have great respect for Doug Campbell and what he does with his Spreaker podcast. I think he does great work. James Wagonboard, I mean, come on, to me, that was just a coup. He worked for Timeline. He was involved in ways, he is a genuine first-person witness. Chris Galley, what can I say about this wonderful man? You guys are so lucky to be there with him and talk to him. He knows more about my grandfather's film than I do. I'm telling you now. And I love this man. He is a wonderful friend. He is an astute researcher, and I just can't say enough about him. And now who am I forgetting? Steve Rowe. Okay. I thought I would do something that a lot of authors never do, and that is include a lone nutter aspect, or the way they look at it, in a conspiracy book, because I obviously believe there was a conspiracy, but Steve doesn't. And I have always wondered why there are so many men and women who say there was no conspiracy, yet they want to argue with those of us that believe that there were. Come on, it's because deep down, and this is me playing amateur psychologist, you know that they know that there was. They have questions, or why would they waste their time talking to those of us who do believe it, right? I mean, that's what I think. So did I answer that question fully enough, or was that good, bad?
No, it's good.
Understand?
No, that's pretty good. Thanks very much. Can you tell me,
What?
can you tell me about Larry Schmidt? Did you hear that?
I did tell you about Larry Schmidt,
Yes.
right?
Yes, please.
Wow. You guys are y'all familiar with, and I'm going to try really hard not to be too opinionated, and but I am. And I don't know any of you guys out there except Bart, and I really don't know him that well, but I'm kind of opinionated. Larry Schmidt reminds me of Roger Stone. Do you guys know Roger Stone? I mean,
yes.
personally or not?
Yeah, we know.
Okay.
Infowars.
The person that Roger Stone is what Larry Schmidt would have been in the 60s with General Walker and Barry Goldwater. And now when I say that, I don't say that as a positive thing, okay? Larry Schmidt wanted to take his vision of Coosa and take it and make money from it and rule whoever, and I'm saying rule because it's true, whoever the next president would be for the next 16 years. That's what he told me. And that's what Roger Stone has done his whole life. So when you think of Roger Stone, think of Larry Schmidt, and they are of the same ilk. He is a man who is very, very kind and was very nice to me. I can't tell you all I've spoken with him for the last 2 or 3 years, and, well, 3 years, and he is very kind to me. But it's odd to me, you guys, that this is a man who worked for the military as a PR person. And then he came back to Dallas, and he immediately gets in with General Walker of the John Birch Society, the rich Texas oil man, and has got a big name, and is all of a sudden, moving up the ladder, okay, per se. He's friends with Joe Brennan, who is one of the richest men, not as H.L. Hunt rich, not Clint Murchison rich, but one of the richer oil men in the area. And I don't even know where to start. There's so much to say about him. One of the things that I think is key in the book, that if you haven't read it, I hope you do, and if you want to know more, please email me and I will talk to you about it, but is that after the assassination, he went to Cuba, you guys, on the advice of professors from the University of Dallas, and worked for the MRR, Manuel Artime, and the MRR there in Miami. And one of the people he ran around with, in fact, he told me a story about him, was Bernardo de Torres. Now, are y'all familiar with Bernardo de Torres? You are? Good. Yeah. Most people aren't. When I talk about it, a lot of people are like, okay, so you know that Bernardo de Torres worked for Garrison. There's rumor that he killed people when he was in New Orleans. He was a former baseball player, and he was very patriotic towards his Cuban homeland. Very. So he worked with Larry for the MRR, and Larry told me a story about how they both had on their little MRR shirts, and Bernie always, he called him Benny, that carried a baseball bat, and they went down the beaches of Miami flirting with the women, and they saw a guy walking around with a placard saying, Viva Fidel, totally Fidel Castro supporter, and that Larry told me that Bernie got his baseball bat out and beat the hell out of this guy. Just beat him up right there in public on the Miami beaches. And then afterwards, several of the people bought him a beer, and the women were all just really impressed. That's one little anecdotal story. So, but I find it odd that there's Larry Schmidt involved with all of this, with the Kennedy assassination before, with Walker, the Adlai Stevenson event, he's the one that wrote the Welcome Mr. Kennedy ad. And then he goes and works for the MRR, which we all know is CIA based and CIA funded. And then he leaves and comes back to Dallas and is asking Earl Lively and several of the wealthier people here in town to donate to the MRR. And the next thing you know, he's in Nevada with Howard Hughes, and Howard Hughes